Emerging stocks are rising, approaching recent 3-year highs, and currencies have also been firmer. Well, the combination of high growth and low inflation pressures in the Western world is a perfect combination for these economies. But for how long? With the Federal Reserve interest rate hikes on the horizon at some point, what is next? Enrico Cecchini, CEO of Myanmar Strategic Holdings, is here with me now. Hello to you. Thank you for your time today. So as I say, actually, if we look at them as a whole, these emerging markets that we club together quite often, they're all doing rather well. They look very strong. Why is that? Is it all to do with US economy strength?
But also the uncertainty around the US economy at the same time. I would say the policy in the US hasn't been that strong and that firm, and that kind of drives capital towards other regions of the world. In general, when I think about it, I see that the US and the rest of the world are also decoupling a little bit, with the US looking more inward and China and the rest of Asia, looking more outward.
Yeah. Are you referring to, say, Donald Trump, for example, and his policies and his rhetoric?
Correct, yes. I'm referring a lot, to the politics of the US administration, which is focusing more inward and creating American jobs than focusing more outward. I would say there are some things in Asia that might require the focus of the US. So, for example, the situation in North Korea. But in general, like Southeast Asia is becoming more under the influence of China, for example, or ASEAN in general rather than the US. And this has changed quite a lot compared to 2 years ago.
Right, so the change of dynamics is there to be seen. How important is China's strength then?
Well, I would say it's very important, particularly with all this initiative around Belt and Road. They are building a lot of infrastructure across Southeast Asia, and they're becoming a stronger commercial partner. I think from a micro perspective as well, I guess Chinese buyers have been very aggressive and very ready to close transactions, while I think in the US and Europe, people tend to be a little bit more cautious, and also they tend to look at more domestic projects rather than ASEAN project right now.
Mm-hmm. And how important is the US dollar and the strength of that?
It's important, but not that important, because I would say that there are so many opportunities on the ground. The people see, potential returns, in double digits, so they don't really look at that too much, but they look at the opportunity to build infrastructure and to build projects on the ground in frontier markets, particularly for Myanmar. And
what are these frontier markets then? Is there ever going to be a new China, for example?
I would say China is a lot bigger than a frontier market, and it's probably today more of what they call growth markets in a way. I would say in terms of frontier markets, probably you're looking at Myanmar, you're looking at potentially North Korea if the situation resolves at some point. In terms of growth, I guess emerging markets, you're looking probably at Pakistan and Bangladesh, where people are investing money today. And where people see a lot of opportunities for growth. I would say China is already in a different league in terms of the size of the market, in terms of the development of the market.
What about India, though? Could that ever compete?
Well, it could compete potentially with China in a way, but I would say they definitely have a very different system. And I would say the China system right now favors growth probably more than the Indian systems.
Mm-hmm. And just to conclude, I mentioned it at the very beginning, the US Federal Reserve is going to be hiking rates at some point. We don't know when. What's going to happen then? Because that's scary times for the emerging markets, because we know we see an exodus of cash.
Well, I think people still don't have a very strong view as to whether it's going to happen or not. And I would say there is very long-term capital committed to countries like Myanmar. For example, Japan and Korea have been involved for the past 30 years and are investing very, very long-term capital there. And particularly Japan has very low interest, if not negative interest rates. So effectively they are deploying a lot of capital in Myanmar. And I don't think that the situation in the US will change dramatically the outlook of Myanmar. It might change slightly other, I guess, emerging or frontier markets, particularly when you look at Latin America, where I guess the risk is higher and the base from which you're starting is probably higher as well.
Yeah, the likes of Brazil are very vulnerable, I think. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you
for your time, Mr. Cecchini there. Thank you very much.